Hello, Chantal. I'm delighted to be chatting with a best-selling writer. Myself and Steve Evans may join us.
Nice to meet you, Steve.
Yeah. How's life in is it Muncie? Is that how it's pronounced in Pennsylvania? Monkey,
Yes, yeah.
Muncie,
Muncie. Yes,
Muncie.
Muncie.
Okay. But before we focus on your writing, tell us what you do to relax.
Well, the things that I like to do to relax is spend time with my family. I actually live with my mom, so I get the joy of spending my day-to-day time with her. I love to go take walks. I love reading. I am a huge fan of K-dramas or Korean dramas, so I love getting caught up in those.
Did you say
Um,
cave dramas?
Korean dramas,
Ah, sorry, got,
K-dramas.
got you, got you. Right.
Cave drama, yeah, that would have been an
Yeah,
interesting one,
that's I thought
huh?
picked up on that. I thought it's one of the scariest things you can do. Go into a cave, the
Yeah.
darkness, the sorry, I'll shut up.
No, it's okay. So really, that's what I kind of do in my downtime. I just take walks and read and enjoy time with my mom.
Okay,
Simple
okay.
life.
You've got a great catalogue of work on Amazon. Is it 10 titles you've got on there?
I do. I have 10 titles. Yes.
Yeah. And it says on your Amazon profile that you started writing at the age of 7. Has this always been a
Yes.
passion for you?
Yeah, when I was little, I first saw the movie Harriet the Spy. It was a Nickelodeon movie that came out back in the 90s. And this girl, had this composition notebook. And after seeing that, I wanted to be just like her. I wanted to write everything down. I wanted to just document life. For some reason, it just really spoke to me. And I remember that being like the gift that I wanted that Christmas was my first diary. Like that was what
Yeah,
I wanted.
yeah.
Yeah, and it started from there and it's never stopped.
Brilliant, brilliant. Yeah. So moving on to your books, with you having so many titles, can we just focus on maybe 3 of them? All of them in the fantasy romance genre, Wintergreen, The Strike, and then we focus maybe mainly on your latest, Until the Last Page. To tell us what they're about.
Sure. So Winter Dream is actually a retelling of the Nutcracker.
Oh,
Um, Growing up, I was a huge fan of the Nutcracker Ballet. My mom used to take me when I was little, and as I kind of grew up, it was a story that always stuck on my head. I wanted to do my own version.
yeah.
So that's what that book is about.
Okay.
Um, The Shrike in the Shadows is actually a book that I co-wrote with a friend of mine. So you'll see on the cover it says my name and then A.M. Wright.
Yeah.
She actually is now A.M. Davis. She was recently married the past few years.
Okay.
And she actually just had her own release, which is super awesome. It's called The Morning of Leone Manor.
Oh.
And it's a very dark, very, very dark retelling of Hansel and Gretel.
Oh.
It was something that she actually approached me and said, "Why don't we write a book together?" And I was
Yeah.
like, "Let's do it."
Yeah.
So it was fun.
It's an ominous title, The Shrike. What is the Shrike? I
Yeah.
can't think of a character in the Hansel and Gretel story. Is it the
Well, the
witch?
Shrike, yeah, it's the witch. She was inspired by the band Hoser, and he has a song called The Shrike, and I guess
Oh,
it's like a bird.
yeah.
And she was like, "Let's call it the Shrike." And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds like a
It
gritty,
does.
gritty witch."
It's a great title.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Until the Last Page is my most recent novel, and it's actually currently the only one that will be available. All 10 of my titles are no longer available on Amazon, but I am working on trying to have them come back out again. Um, and it's a like young adult, new adult book,
Yeah.
as the student or the character in the story is a 25-year-old who falls into a book of fairy tales, and she um, finds herself with a frog prince who's pretty snarky, and he has to find his kiss of true love.
Yeah.
And they travel through all these different fairy tales because she has fallen into a book of fairy tales.
Yeah.
And she has to find his story and find his princess, and she has to find her way home. So it's kind of like a Wizard of Oz story.
That's delightful. That damn will read that.
Yeah, yeah, it's fun.
That sounds like. Could I ask the when you say none of the well, some of them are not available. You have
Mhm.
audiobooks on Amazon.
All what you'll see now on Amazon are Audible versions.
Ah,
So
okay.
you can still listen to them,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I highly encourage that. They're beautifully
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
But the actual printed copies are no longer available.
Okay. Who did the narration? Did you do that yourself?
No, I actually worked with a few narrators on ACX or Audible,
Yeah.
um, and many of them were done by different individuals. But the one who's done a lot of them was a young woman named Dulcie, and she's amazing.
Yeah.
So which Blinding Night, Gilded Runes, which are my Hades and Persephone stories, and Between the Sea and Stars, which is a Little Mermaid retelling, were all done by Dulcie, and they're amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Can you tell us how you connected with your publisher as well? Intimidable Books, is it?
Yes, I can tell you how I connected with my publisher, Imitable Books. I was actually a part of the Joy Pitch on Twitter. So I know like throughout the year, there's different pitches on Twitter where authors can sort of pitch their book. And if a agent or a publisher likes your post, it means that they are interested in you querying them. So I got a little like from Imitable Books, and the rest is history. I sent in my query, and here we are.
Brilliant.
I really I'll say I took my time in trying to find something. Initially I wanted to find an agent. I like in my mind that was the pathway. It's what I
Yeah.
wanted to do, being that I also had a catalog of 10 books. So I was kind of hoping to take quote unquote the luggage with me. Um, and
Yeah.
then I considered self-publishing because I've done publishing before. And I kind of have a good grasp on how to do some things. I'm certainly not an expert in everything. But there's sort of a legitimacy to having someone believe in your work and believe in your story. And when Imitable Books offered me the opportunity to work with them, it took me a little bit to consider, but I just jumped. I jumped on the boat and I haven't looked back.
Excellent.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I ask you, is your ambition, and to me it sounds just the way you've described the stories, have all been very visual. Is your ambition to get your work on the big screen or TV series, Netflix?
That would be amazing. I'm not gonna lie. If Netflix ever approached me and said, "We'd love to make your story into a series," I would say like, yes, let me let me know what you need from me.
Yeah.
Um, Even if I can just make a little cameo, like a witch in the woods, like I'd love to do it. But yeah, and I think even more importantly, making sure that the score of the movie or the show,
Yeah.
since music is such a huge part of my process.
Okay. Is the music in the audio book, or is that just pure narration, or do you have that background music?
The narrator Dulcie actually had her husband create music for the beginning and ending of the
Oh,
audiobook,
yeah.
which is really, really cool.
That's unusual. It's a bonus.
Yeah, it was a wonderful bonus. But for each of my novels, I actually have like little playlists that I
Oh,
create so that while I'm writing, I I primarily listen to like music scores so
yeah,
that as I'm writing, it all kind of looks like a movie in my head.
yeah.
Um, and then I
Yeah.
try to make like those various artists, playlists for other people for later.
Hmm. Okay.
Um, so my favorite author, I actually have a couple of authors that have been inspirational to me, or or authors that I go back to often. So to begin, like Sarah Dessen was actually an author that I really grew up with in my teenage years. She's more of a contemporary romance author, but I really, really enjoyed her writing as I was growing up. Currently, Erin Craig, who is the author of A House of Salt and Sorrow, is one of my favorite authors. Sarah J. Maas, she is the author of A Court of Thorns and Roses, and the she has a couple of series. I just haven't read them all yet, which I know is very controversial to say. And then also Kelly Craig, she is the author of a book called The Phantom Heart, which is one of my favorite books. I am a huge fan of The Phantom of the Opera, and it's
Okay.
like this Phantom of the Opera meets the Haunted Mansion sort of vibe for me.
Yeah.
I love that book. It's so good.
We've connected on Twitter. What other social media do you use for promoting your work? Are you using TikTok or Facebook, Instagram?
I I use Instagram a lot, and I do use TikTok. There are quite a few embarrassing videos of me dressed up with this ceramic frog because I'm reenacting Until the Last Page. So you'll find lots of videos of me dressed
Yeah.
up as this character with this ceramic frog, and I'm interacting with it.
Do you give it a
It's
kiss?
fun.
Do you give it a
No,
no?
no, no. Well, I would definitely say I'm more of a pantser. While I might plot some things out, I really just let the process be as organic as possible. I find that when I schedule things out or I plot things too much, then it just gets boring and then I get tired and I don't want to do it, which is not helpful when you're trying to write a book. And then as for like a daily target of words, it just all depends on where I am in the process. If I know I'm up to a deadline, I try to make sure that I'm writing at least 1,000, 2,000 words a day. Um, it's more helpful, I think, when you're doing that like NaNoWriMo program that they have in November and July, where you have to keep track of your words and you have to, you're trying to meet your goal. But for me, no, I just go with the flow.
Okay. Chantal, can I just go back to the latest book until the last page? Is
Sure.
this meant as a standalone, or do you have maybe a series planned with that, using the same characters or the same theme?
Yeah. So originally this was supposed to be a standalone book.
Yeah.
And when it was signed on, it was signed on as a standalone book. But it is now being turned into a duology.
Oh,
So I am in the works of writing a sequel. The book does sort of end on the cliffhanger.
yeah.
So if no one likes cliffhangers, just know that you will have one in this book. Um, but it'll have just two books.
Okay. Is there illustrations in the book?
Um, there is going to be a map inside of the book,
Yeah.
and if you pre-order the book, you actually get two stickers that my friend Finn Honeycutt drew for me.
Yeah.
So if you pre-order the book and you turn in your receipt to the publisher, and it's
Yeah.
very easy to find it right on the website, you get a free little pre-order gift.
Okay.
But inside the book, no, there's no illustrations.
Okay. You mentioned the website. Have you updated? I know there was, I found sort of, I think it was an old link maybe to your previous website. Have you made updates to this?
No,
No?
I have not made any updates to the website that's behind you.
Ah.
Yeah, I need to at some point, but
It's
I
full
I
time
have
though, isn't
not.
it? If you're writing and you're working full time, you could spend your whole life maybe updating a website
Yeah,
and going
for
on
all the
social
different
media.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I really try to just focus on places where I know my audience is. I haven't ever found much success in having my website. I'm
Mm,
sure it is like it's a good place to have a hub, but
mm.
for right now, I just really keep to Twitter and Instagram and TikTok.
Okay. Okay. Can I ask about your writing routine? Have you got like a special retreat, a special room, maybe a writer's an office in your garden where you go away and shut the world outside?
Oh my gosh, I wish I had an office in the garden. That would be wonderful. No, I actually just kind of write in my room. I try to wait until it's evening time when the day is kind of settled and I can just get lost in where I need to be, which is in the story and that's kind of like my little recluse. I just sit at my desk in my room and put on a candle or something and start writing.
Okay. Did you
And
have?
take in a bit of TikTok and a bit of Disney because you like that as well, don't you? In your
I
spare
do
time.
I do love Disney. Yes, I love watching Disney movies and I'll rewatch them. And um, I have actually just started to try to reintroduce some Disney movies to my boyfriend who hasn't seen them since his childhood. And I'm like, well, we're gonna remedy
Wow.
that.
Did you have a favorite Disney film?
I do. I love Beauty and the Beast. I
Oh,
love the animated film.
yeah. Which one? There's been a couple of versions, hasn't there? Back in, I don't know, I think it was the 70s maybe. And there's been like a sort of a real life version.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the live action film. I
Yeah.
like I like the 90s, but I
Yeah.
also really love Shelley Duvall's Fairy Tale Theater, which came out like in the 80s.
Yeah.
Shelley Duvall, the actress, had like all sorts of fairy tale it was like a show and each show like episode was a fairy tale. So like Robin Williams played the Frog Prince in one
Yeah.
and oh, the guy who played in Fierce Bueller's day off. He was like the
Oh,
prince in the
Matthew
Cinderella.
Roderick. Matthew Roderick, is
Yes,
that?
yes,
Yeah,
yeah. So when you watch all of Shelley Duvall's like fairy tale theater episodes, you'll see that there's all sorts of different Hollywood stars playing
yeah.
these, fairy tale characters. It's
Tell
so
me the
that's
title of that again. I'm just going to make a note. I want to watch that. What's the
it's
title of that
called
again?
it's called Shelley Duvall's Fairy Tale Theater.
Shelley Duvall's Theatre. I like the sound
Yeah,
of
and
that.
I can send you the link too.
Yeah,
It's
if you can, please, it'd be
yeah,
great. Yeah, I'll watch
I'd
that
love
tonight.
to.
All right.
Yeah, it's fun.
Have you mentioned you're getting your boyfriend to watch old Disney film? Have you watched the film Bambi?
Yes, of
Yeah.
course.
Do you know that film? It's got one of the most ominous, menacing lines in out of any film at all, regardless of animation. Where I think
Really?
the mum or the daddy dear says to the baby Bambi, "Man has entered the forest," and they immediately, senses go on alert. Quite scary,
Yeah,
spooky, quite dark.
it is. Yeah.
Did you cry at the
Yeah.
end?
I've never noticed that. I've never noticed that before, Terry.
Yeah, I saw it when I was about 4, and it disturbed me. I remember thinking, "Man's entered the forest. Why is that danger to the?" And then obviously the action moves on. I won't spoil the film.
Yeah, and then you
But it's
find
so
out.
stuck with me. Yeah,
Yeah. That film's always actually scared me.
yeah,
Bambi has always been a movie that I've never enjoyed. Just because it always scared me. I don't know why. I
yeah,
mean, it's beautifully
yeah,
animated, but yeah,
yeah.
you're right. It's a little ominous.
It's one of the
As
shortest,
well.
shorter as well, isn't it, of the animations?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's like I know that like Snow White was first, Pinocchio was
Yeah,
second.
yeah,
Um, I know it's one of the earlier ones. I know it's very, very early, and you can really tell with the animation.
yeah, yeah.
I
Pinocchio was
love
quite,
Disney.
yeah, Pinocchio was quite dark as well, isn't it? It disturbed
Oh,
me when he
yes.
changed into a donkey. When
Yes.
he just goes off with his friends to the bar and things and goes enjoying his life. That's a bit
Yeah.
spooky for the
We
child.
we were actually watching that over New Year's, and I very much remembered why I didn't like that movie. Like watching the children cry for their mom when they're turning
Yeah.
into a donkey,
Oh,
there's
yeah,
just
yeah.
something very disturbing about that.
Which is your favorite book that you've worked on? Would you think it'll be the last one or your first one, maybe? Do you have a favorite out of all of them?
Hmm. So I feel like I have to say like yes, and until the last page is probably one of my favorite books because it was fun to work on. But I would also say that The Songs in Our Hearts, which is a high school contemporary book, is probably one of my favorite favorites because it's so personal to me.
Yeah.
So I wrote that based off of like my high school crush and my high school experience. And I also wrote in my dad.
Oh,
And I lost my dad in 2015.
oh,
So it was a wonderful way of making sure that anytime someone read that book,
yeah.
he was kind of brought back to life. And there's just
Oh,
something really, really awesome about that, making sure that like my dad lives on in a book that I wrote. And it's just really special. So to me, that's my favorite.
that's a beautiful homage, isn't it, to your dad?
Yeah.
Really is.
Well, my advice to a new writer would be to absolutely write for yourself. Don't be writing for the market. Don't worry about who's going to read your book. Don't worry about if something sounds good or doesn't. You just need to write, and you need to write what you love to write. And worry about all that other stuff later. Like editing, it'll come later. Just have fun. And I feel like I have to remind myself that at times, like just write for yourself, have fun with it, and don't worry so much about what's a mile ahead of you. Just be in the moment right now.
But Chantal, on that note,
Brilliant.
looks like time's caught up with us. But it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. And maybe have another chat when the next release is due.
Yeah, I would love that. Absolutely. Thank you so
Brilliant.
much for having me today. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But for now, thank you very much.
Pleasure, yeah.
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 It was
you.
wonderful meeting you, Terry, and wonderful meeting you, Steve. Thank you.